And finally, new rule. Stop saying that Whoopi Goldberg getting yanked from The View right after she attacked me on The View is karma. There's no such thing as karma. Sorry. Sorry, but life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
They're disgusting. She's Anna Navarro in your wildest imagination. You could never solo host a show. You will only ever make it as part of an ensemble, and you could never hope to achieve the success that Tucker Carlson has. So you can sit in your little cheap seats all day long and enjoy your little negative henpecking, but your careers are going nowhere, and Tucker is about to dominate in whatever space.
It's called The View?
It's called The View. It's not called The Facts.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting that it's called, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America.
But
there is one view,
right, and
one
that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
Whoopi Goldberg taking a shot at Bill Maher on The View, a quick jab during a segment, probably expecting no response. But what came next? I want to talk about what we go over because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before. So everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. First of all, I'm going to talk about this. The end of my show next week teaser, but there is no thing as karma. Okay, get over. Whoopi Goldberg thought she could take a light jab at Bill Maher and walk away clean. But what followed shook the entire set of The View. She made her remark casually, probably thinking it would go unnoticed. But Maher didn't let it slide for a second. He was ready to tear the mask off the whole operation. Bill Maher didn't need a chair on the panel or a cup of coffee in hand.
I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no thing as karma, okay? Get over that. Whoopi attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. They just happen to coincide.
He lit up the show from a distance and sent a message that echoed louder than anything said on air. He looked straight into the camera on his own show and said, "There's no such thing as karma. Get over it." That line hit like a hammer, especially as the internet kept screaming, "Karma," after Whoopi's sudden exit. He wasn't there for revenge. He was there to expose, and expose he did. Every crack, every staged moment. Every fake apology got dragged into the light. Maher mocked how The View constantly targets him while pretending to be a space for women's voices. He said their hypocrisy was so thick, even their fact checks needed fact checks. The legal corrections were just the beginning. 4 different times, the show had to walk back false claims. And Maher laughed as he held them up like dirty laundry on live TV. "We only saw 3 on air," he said with a grin, "but I've got the 4th. The crowd went wild with applause while The View stayed silent. He called it a pattern of panic, where the show tries to control the narrative but always ends up tripping over its own script. And just when the flames started to spread, Megyn Kelly entered the scene, calm, collected, and ready to crush. Kelly didn't need theatrics. She lobbed a truth bomb so sharp it cut through every layer of The View's pretended polish. She called the show an echo chamber, where hosts pretend to argue while all reading from the same invisible script. She said, "It's not a talk show, it's a performance, a stage filled with synchronized outrage and fake debates."
That hot mess that they air in the mornings, called The View, had to issue not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 corrections, legal corrections, 4 legal notes. We only have 3 of them on camera, but look at this.
I have another legal note.
Oh, my God.
Both Trump and Pam Bondi have denied allegations of a quid pro quo. I have a legal note.
Not to mention what they did at that debate, where once again, they tried to fact check only one side, and then when their fact checks got fact checked, they cowered. They cowered in fear. I mean, this is a pattern with them.
Kelly accused them of turning every topic into a drama scene where real discussions are replaced with emotional meltdowns. The most shocking part, the ladies of The View didn't say a word in response. No angry monologue, no sassy comeback, just dead silence. It was as if they knew her words were true, and that silence said more than any rebuttal ever could. Kelly ripped into the show's structure, saying it wasn't built for truth. It was built to protect fragile egos and punish those who think differently. Maher and Kelly didn't even need to be in the studio. Their voices came from outside and still made the whole place tremble. Then Sunny Hostin made headlines again, comparing the January 6th riot to slavery and the Holocaust. That moment didn't go unnoticed. It was replayed and ridiculed across the country. Maher didn't need to twist anything. He just showed the clip as is, and people gasped. It was the perfect example of how The View pushes things too far. Megyn Kelly didn't hold back for a second. She exposed how the show jumps from topic to topic like it's trying to dodge accountability. She said, "It's not a discussion, it's a performance where logic goes to die." That one line lit up every social feed and left The View scrambling for cover. Kelly accused the panel of acting like experts on everything while barely skimming the headlines before going on air. She compared the show to a bad group project. Everyone loud, nobody prepared, and the loudest voice always pretending to be the smartest. And when it came to fact-checking, Kelly called them out hard. She said the show ends up needing fact checks for its own fact checks, and viewers are noticing. Bill Maher backed her up with brutal sarcasm, saying that the show's panel was less about information and more about emotional gymnastics. He slammed the comparison of Trump supporters to Nazis as disgusting and dangerous, not because he defended Trump, but because he knew how toxic that kind of language could be.
The term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and so
migrate.
why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice, who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want.
Okay.
Because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know, want to call it the super far left? But don't tell me the left
Or maybe the super far right.
Well, he's talking about the left. Well, then
okay, but we talked about that. I mean, I think we agree about the danger of the super far right.
You can hate Trump, he said, but hating half the country is something else. That line shook the internet like an earthquake. Maher called The View a stage of synchronized screaming, where anyone with a different opinion is treated like an enemy of the state. And the timing couldn't have been worse for the show. Social media exploded with people pointing out how awkward the hosts looked the moment someone brought up real facts. Alyssa Farah Griffin tried to bring balance to the table, but all it got her was dirty looks and silent daggers from across the set. Whoopi's face twisted in fury when someone dared to say Trump attended a funeral while Biden was busy recording a podcast. No facts, just rage. Megyn Kelly wasn't done. She calmly ripped apart the show's sisterhood branding, saying it was just a code word for agree or get exiled. She exposed how former co-hosts like Meghan McCain and Candace Cameron Bure were treated like outsiders the moment they stepped off script. Kelly said, Real empowerment is letting women disagree without punishment. But on The View, disagreement is treated like betrayal. Maher drove the same point home, laughing at how every discussion ends with panic, commercial breaks, and forced smiles. He mocked the safe space narrative, saying it was less about safety and more about silencing. And the audience roared with laughter. Kelly compared watching The View to sitting in on a high school debate team that never learned how to research. Just shout. The most devastating part? Neither Kelly nor Maher needed to yell. Their calm delivery made every word feel like a dagger wrapped in velvet. And while The View tried to act unfazed, viewers could see through it. Every fake laugh, every stiff smile. It all felt like a slow-motion collapse on live TV. Maher didn't stop with one or two jabs. He unleashed a full breakdown of how The View disguises emotional chaos as conversation. He said the real problem isn't political, it's cultural. They don't argue ideas, he said, they punish difference.
I mentioned this karma stuff on the show last week because I was relating how many texts and emails I got from people congratulating me on receiving a karmagram from the universe in the form of Whoopi Goldberg's chastisement. So I thought this would be a good time for a little tutorial on karma, which, as Americans understand it, is nothing more than an extension of the common logical fallacy called post hoc ergo propter hoc.
And by the way, out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Let's not do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree with me?
And that was the punch that landed hardest. According to him, the show doesn't want dialogue. It wants agreement. The second someone challenges the mood, the entire table turns icy. Kelly jumped back in with a final strike. She said, "Shouting louder doesn't make you right." That single sentence echoed louder than anything from The View all week. She mocked the way the panel acts like a moral compass, except their compass spins in circles the moment facts show up. Kelly compared it to auditing a class where the teachers never opened the book, and audiences couldn't stop sharing that line. Every segment, she said, felt like improvisation disguised as insight, and somehow they still managed to sound smug. Even casual viewers could see the cracks forming. Body language, awkward pauses, eye rolls. Everything pointed to panic behind the smiles. One viral clip showed Sunny Hostin stiffen visibly when someone challenged her take, proving that discomfort, not confidence, rules the table. Kelly and Maher made something clear without ever stepping into the room. The View wasn't being attacked, it was being revealed. They didn't break it with insults, they exposed it with truth. And The View had no counterstrike because their usual weapons didn't work on facts. Maher took aim at the show's treatment of guests who dare to speak out. He said, "You can feel the tension every time someone thinks for themselves." He described it as walking on eggshells with microphones, where one unscripted sentence could trigger a full-on meltdown. And when producers have to cut to commercial just to save face, that's not a conversation. That's damage control. Even liberal guests aren't safe. If you stray from the emotional script, you're treated like a traitor, and everyone watching can feel it. Maher said it plain. The View isn't empowering women, it's policing them. That line hit with the weight of a sledgehammer wrapped in reason. Kelly didn't scream, didn't flinch. She let the truth do the damage. And what followed was total silence from the other side. No rebuttals, no defense, no counter-narrative. Because how do you argue with people who aren't angry, just correct? What Kelly and Maher did wasn't sabotage, it was a spotlight. They lit up everything The View tried to hide, and the audience saw it all.
Donald Trump will be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States, yay, on January 20th of this month. Not everyone's happy about it, and many people would like us to be more focused on the insurrection that he personally unleashed, if you ask them. As we discussed earlier, they think it's as bad as like the Holocaust, and you don't have to take my word for it. Here is Sunny Hostin of The View.
January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery.
Yeah, the January 6th is right up there next to the Holocaust and slavery. Whoopi Goldberg was angry when Alyssa pointed out that Trump went to the funeral of Officer Diller.
Yes.
On Long Island, and Joe Biden went to a podcast. Look at Whoopi Goldberg's reaction.
Choose what you like there, but for Republicans, it was good imagery.
Really?
One day later, yes.
And I'm asking that because I was so offended because you know who showed up.
Yeah.
And he was, whether he was asked or not. This is a man who didn't care what happened to the officers on January 6th.
She promotes Joe Biden and Kamala Harris every day on that show. Trump wasn't supportive enough of the cops who were, yes, in danger on J 6th. How does that explain their behavior on a daily basis?
By the time the dust settled, The View was still standing, but not the same. Its image was cracked, its tone shaken, and its silence louder than ever. And now, the world watches not for the show's opinions, but to see if it can survive its own reflection. The damage is done, the truth is out, and there's no hiding from it now. It was exposed, raw, and shaken to the core. What Maher and Kelly did was bigger than a critique. It was a cultural takedown. They didn't just tear into The View, they challenged an entire system of fake empowerment. They reminded everyone watching that just because something is loud doesn't mean it's right. And just because it's daytime TV doesn't mean it's harmless. Viewers everywhere started tuning in, not for the commentary, but to spot the tension, the fake laughter, the silent panic that had been revealed. People who once defended The View began to question it. Is this really a space for honest conversation? They asked. Or is it just a performance with mugs and moral lectures? Maher's smirk and Kelly's calm dismantling proved that truth doesn't need volume, it needs precision, and they both delivered it with devastating skill. The silence from The View wasn't confidence, it was collapse. No bold statements, no firestorms, just a slow realization that the game had changed. Even producers couldn't spin it. Every attempt to distract with fluff segments or soft interviews only made the damage more obvious. It was clear to everyone watching. The power of The View was built on illusion. And now that illusion had cracked wide open. Kelly's final blow came with chilling grace. You don't represent women, you represent fear of dissent. And no one at the table dared to answer. And Maher's closing words sealed it like a coffin. If free speech needs a warning label, then what you're doing isn't empowering, it's controlling. That line alone sent shockwaves through every social platform. People clipped it, shared it, and cheered it like a long-awaited truth finally spoken out loud. In the end, it wasn't just the hosts who were humiliated, it was the very format they've hidden behind for years. The carefully choreographed drama, the feigned outrage, the emotional manipulation dressed up as awareness. Now audiences are awake. They've seen behind the curtain, and no amount of fake smiles can cover that up anymore. The View didn't just lose an argument, it lost credibility. And in the world of media, that's the only currency that matters. Kelly and Maher didn't burn the set. They shattered the illusion. They didn't yell. They exposed. And in doing so, they proved one thing louder than any applause ever could. Truth doesn't need a studio. It doesn't need cue cards. All it needs is someone brave enough to speak and someone strong enough to stand behind it. As The View struggles to recover from this public dissection, one thing is now crystal clear. When truth finally walks into the room, even the loudest voices go quiet. And that silence, that's not victory. That's defeat, disguised as poise. And it's the most brutal humiliation of all.